See?
Not the jinx this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Williams is back.
Combining some lots or whatever, and it's.
Never heard from Cynthia, have you?
No, I haven't.
She's coming there. What's that mean?
It gets there, get down.
Still good now.
Yeah, it's, they don't bother me, they find it bothers me when I slog it to, I keep the fill out.
You got a knee surgery?
I come back, they jump.
My goodness, how long were you in the hospital?
I had an outpatient.
They don't.
That's okay, I always forget to bring mine.
That evening.
They put you in there, they're gonna get you out, try to get you.
Everybody knows you ain't.
That's right, that's right.
Medicine's just come so far. Yeah.
You know, when I was coming out here making up, I made it sound like he's down there with a hammer and chisel doing it, but they's actually stapling my knee back together. I said, what y'all doing with a hammer and all down there? So it felt just like
I tell you, all these amendments are driving me crazy. You have to do it, everything just, you know, the ads and the format and with it once it's approved and edits and all that.
Yeah.
Whew, they coming at us hard.
I was figuring that the papers would give you some discounts.
You would think.
All the ink you're putting in
I was
there.
at that little place, June 10th celebration.
oh yeah, we missed that. Unfortunately,
We didn't, down at the Perch.
the perch, yeah, community center.
I heard it went real well, though.
It did. It was quite, I got that kind of late because I was out on it. I actually did when I was headed back and I had a little time. So I had a choice to stop in Athens to that one or to get in Coleman. And I said, well, I live in Madison, so I'm going to Coleman. So I made it. All the food was gone, but I made it. I didn't eat. I know you said that's the agenda. But it was pretty nice.
Agenda?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised how many people were there.
Oh, well, does anybody else need a
25, maybe.
agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, copy of the agenda.
25, 30 maybe. Off and on. There was, there was some in, some out, in, some out. And like I said, they started at 4. I didn't get that till about 5. So I'm sure some people had already gone.
And I got the agenda there.
Build up quite a
Copy
little
of it.
community there for people to
I'm having
get
it
on
on
the
the here.
Pretty nice.
I mean,
That's nice little. Thank you.
You're
I think
welcome.
that's the guy.
Oh, I need that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I think something was interesting to me. We had our.
I know, right?
I would just go ahead and snap your finger and say, podium.
Nope, nope.
She
I mean,
grew
this
up
one's got him trained, he's used to it.
Oh, he's used to it.
She said, when she grew up in Tacoma, three grocery stores, a car dealership. I didn't know your wife was such a journalist. That everything that they needed. The paper. And look at it now. It's all gone. Almost over.
Yep.
She's really.
I mean, it was kind of amazing about, all the things that were there and everything and how well it functioned.
We're just gonna have to be more service-oriented kind of thing.
Always enjoyed
Cafes, bakeries.
something she's kind of wearing in the morning.
I mean, it's gotta be just business.
Yeah, I got the remote though.
We just opened a storefront there.
Don't wait, a little closer.
I like that.
This morning.
Car dealership or tractor. One of the other. I'm trying to remember. dealership or a car dealership, I can't remember what.
We can call it GIS.
It was a tractor dealership.
Oh,
I
think
see.
it's a wheel.
Yeah, right there where they got
We're
that.
asking for it.
No.
Mechanics.
Body shop.
I mean, an open volunteer.
Okay, well, we should
I get
the marketplace, I guess, is that what they call it here in Danielsville, that little market? Well, you know, the guy that started this one, he had that one in Cona too. Hartsville. And he was the one that started the first one.
It's been neat.
I found the one in Iowa. And over in Bone, he had them, he put them everywhere. Well, their corporate model is to have one every 9 miles. Every 9 miles. And they put them out. They don't know what. Even if it's a major subdivision.
Can I,
Yes, ma'am.
when they make motions, would you mind repeating their name? Okay.
The letter, when they were talking about the acceptance of the roads.
We're ready? About a minute.
Yeah, I don't know where Jeff's at. I haven't heard from him either.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I didn't see that part. I thought it was all about. He's on the road a lot. Is
We got 5, so that's
it where he's quoting
good
the,
work instead of
Or
missing 2.
section 2, when, or section 1 subsection.
So I hadn't heard from her. She already
I
know she had, she either texted me or called me or something, or she didn't be here.
Huh, she may come in a little later. Okay.
There she goes.
Over here, like 3 acres in size for lives. Okay.
So long as we go through.
What did I?
All right, thank you.
Because they have some that bring acres.
We went down
I
there.
know.
They were allowed, but we're not on the road to be an acre. So if they made them all 3 acres or more,
Yeah.
that would be true.
Yeah, I imagine you would. I won't say how many lots we lose.
Required to be there?
More than he wants.
Required to be there.
If it were only one, it would be different, right? Yeah, forget it.
He is
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're willing to change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, there's some coming in there.
Find it without us having somebody there.
Oh,
I want to call this, Madison County Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing, to order. Stand with me for a word of prayer. Lord God, our Father, thank you again for life. Thank you for health. Thank you for strength. Our Father, we thank you for allowing us to think and move about our daily occupation. Our Father, we ask that you, one that is here tonight, our Father, we ask that you give us guidance and give us that thought pattern that we may do the kind of, and our Father would pray for this entire world. Make it to be what you would have it to be. And our Father, we're so careful to give you all the praise and glory. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
sure he's there.
Okay, this is our public hearing. Required to read a statement as we begin. My name is, I am the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. At this time, I will call the June 21st meeting to order. Now I'm going to ask the members to introduce themselves and the district that they represent, starting with Mr. Gaddy.
Good evening, Bruce Kennedy, District 5.
Cynthia, elected by board.
Kenneth Bradley, District 1.
Lee Mitchell, District 2.
William Smith, District 4.
Of course, Ms. Tracy.
Tracy Patrick, zoning administrator.
And again, my name is Canola Scott, and I'm appointed by the chairman of Madison County Board of Commissioners. Okay. As our first order of business this evening, I am required to read a few statements regarding the zoning process. Tonight is the first of two public hearings. A second hearing for Madison County will be held at this location at 6 p.m. I believe that's July the 11th, because July the 4th is on a Monday. That is the first Monday. That's when they normally meet, but I believe that meeting will be on the 11th. Attendance is not required at this hearing, but is encouraged in case questions come up. As to the order of business tonight, I will be asking the zoning administrator to make her comments as to the zoning request. Then the applicant will come forward, address and sign in, and state their reason for the request. Next, the zoning commission will be able to ask questions to clarify their understanding relating to the application. After that, I will allow public comment for or against or amendment. All comments will be addressed to the commission and not others in attendance. No will be allowed. The Planning and Zoning Commission is a recommending body only, consisting of some concerned citizens who are appointed by the county commissioner. We're a fact-finding body that visits the property, review information, consider public comments, and within the guidelines of the comprehensive plan and other use ordinances, to the Board of Commissioners. The final decision will be made on Monday night, July the 11th, 2022. Is there any need for any member of the board to recuse themselves? See none, so therefore we will move on. Our old business, Ms. Patrick, we'll hear from you.
Yes, sir. This is consider approving the preliminary for Spratling Creek Farm subdivision by Clint Larkin, and not seen in attendance. I haven't heard from him.
Mr. Larkin is to be here tonight to present the preliminary plat.
Just rezones.
I was thinking both, but, I may be wrong, Mike.
Those are rezones.
Right.
With
But plat approval.
never had one not show up for a plat.
Right.
Approval.
Alright.
I should do that for Mike.
Yeah, that'll be a Mike question.
You click over there.
I'm scrolling as fast as my little fingers.
Pressure's on.
Yes, he was here at the business meeting, but he was told at that time that he needed to be for the public hearing.
Mr. Canola informed me, went to business meeting, yeah.
So we'll give
Weird situation.
we'll
Could I suggest that maybe we move on to our other hearing, and
Yes,
then
we will.
also give me time to look and get, if he's running late, give him time to get here.
absolutely.
Yes,
Indicator.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Move on to new business. Ms. Tracy?
Okay. This is for Helena Santoyo. She is requesting a conditional use for her A2 5.02 acre property to allow her to operate a maximum of 14 dogs on the property that she and her family live on. She will show quality exotic bullies, which are small to medium in size. She is trying to bring her current non-compliant dog kennel that has been 6 years into compliance with the dog kennel regulations in the zoning ordinance. The property is located at 628 Cecil Stewart Road on map 79 in District 2.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tracy. Helena, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, but would you please come up and tell us about your rezone request?
Yes, so I just wanted to, since we already got being and all that, I want to get into, like, actually filing, taxes the right way and everything. I know I have to get a breeding license, and this is part of the process. So I wanted to see if we could make that happen.
Anything else?
Pretty much it. She summarizes everything here when I'm requesting.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for her before we move on?
Can you tell us about,
Go ahead, please. I had to jump on me.
we're talking about, tell us about the metal building that is currently being used for kennel purposes, but it falls within the 100 feet setback.
So we removed everything, anything to do with dogs, we moved it out. And dog kennels, we've had dog kennels already. But when the inspector came, it was actually just temporarily. Nothing was permanently put down or anything. But we took everything and there's nothing there. But originally it was supposed to be for storage. And then we changed our mind. We're trying to do this dog kennel stuff and do it as the interior. But I came over here and asked her information about it. It'd be 100 feet from the property line. So it's only 25 feet. But if we are approved, we do plan to get another building, according to the code.
And I have one other question. I came over and knocked on the door, no one was at home, so I looked around a little bit.
Oh, okay.
When you come in the driveway, brush that's piled up to the right, there is a small building just on the other side of that brush. Is that a store that has nothing to do with the
small, because I think there's like a little house and then next to it.
It looks like a little storage building. I don't
Yeah.
know what you have in it.
We do have some stuff in it that is, I don't know, stuff for Christmas and.
No, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's like grilling, I put all the grilling stuff like
Okay.
in there.
Has nothing to do with kennel.
Not related to the kennel. Okay. Bruce?
Your neighbors, have you been in contact with your neighbors about this? How's your relationship with them?
I haven't personally. My husband's the one that always talks to the neighbors a lot more than I do. I stay at home and I have 4 kids, so. But he's the one that helps me run it and everything to the dog stuff.
Okay. Work another job as opposed to.
Landscaping, I do landscaping, yeah. I mean, not every day, like, 'cause I got a business.
And I'm not exactly sure it's pertinent, but how do you get a breeder's license?
We have to get this first and then go through the state.
Okay. So it's a state process.
Yes, sir.
And then they have you on the list and you're certified, licensed?
I believe that's how it goes first. I'm trying to do this first and then go to the next step. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know if I have to apply online or what do I have to do. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have a question about, I understand you've been doing this for 6 years?
Yes, sir.
Without knowing that you need or being in compliance with the state, you just found out once somebody came by and said, "Oh, what are you doing?"
No, nobody came by and told us. I was doing research in it, and also our taxpayer has also told us, because I told him about our business and all that. He's like, he suggested all of this, so I got that EIN number, I got, this right here that I'm trying to do, and if this goes by, then I'll go to the next one.
Requesting
Right,
to come into compliance.
yes, sir.
I'm sorry, actually, mentioned about the building inspector who was, inspecting her building that she had gotten a permit for, and when he went out, he noticed dogs, and he brought that to our attention, and then she's just wanting to make things right and go from there.
There's no timing about the same. But
Because
it was Jane.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Have you been unique type dogs here now in the same location?
I'm sorry?
Have you been in the same location for 6 years?
No. Mm-mm. I think this would be our second year in December. This would be our second year in December in this location.
Question?
Yeah, just come by and give you a tour, and I did talk to your neighbors. I don't seem to have any problems, but, as far as the dogs, you said that was gonna be your maximum for the adult dogs.
Right.
Yeah, and you usually don't have a big litter, those litter.
Correct. They don't have
Yeah.
big litters.
Okay, yeah, you said like one or two.
One or two, the max we probably had was like 6.
Okay. Now, is there gonna be a separate place for?
That's what we were wanting the building for, but since she said we couldn't use it at all, so we'll just have to make it work on the new building that we'll bring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
At
Is
all?
that the same building then?
That we
Talking
were
about
canceling.
permitting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it?
Have you actively started the permitting process for the building, or?
Well, that's what we, first with the metal building that's already there, we were already on the final step. Like she said, that they found the dog, so they stopped everything.
So I see, but, the building that you intend to
To bring in,
will have all the dog facilities in it.
yes, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
At this point, anybody here that would like to speak for this rezone request? In favor? Please come in, ma'am.
Not in favor.
Okay, well, right at this moment, I'm asking for anybody that's in favor.
Okay.
Hearing none. Anyone that's in opposition, please come forward, state your name, address, and your concerns.
Helen, 476 Chandler Road. We live at the end of there, and they're our neighbors.
Okay.
I have a petition here, I don't know who she talked to in my neighborhood, but I have a petition here for the Memphis Kennel.
It was a guy across the street.
Okay, do you expound on your opposition, why you're in opposition, that kind of thing?
We have problems with them, with the noise. 911's been called several times. The music plays on. We have to work the next day. You can't work and be on your A game and not have no sleep. It's really loud whenever it's shaking my walls, my windows.
Now, let me stop you at that point. I'm concerned about the dog kennel. Now, I understand you have these other problems,
Then
but we're not here.
concerned of the dog barking
Okay.
because it's
You know, I'm just asking you to stay with the dog problem, okay?
right behind me.
Mhm.
And the barking and the smell, the neighborhood doesn't want it.
Okay, I'll take that, if you, want to leave that. Yeah, you can take a look at it and pass it on around. Anything else? Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else that would like to? Anyone in opposition? If not, we'll close the bring it back to the board for further discussion and a approve, to deny, to approve with conditions, or whatever your desires are.
Christopher, I did have a question on this, and I apologize, some of this is redundant because I was not at the previous details on this. All right, so this is going to be a conditional use. So this is something that if they're found to be in non-compliance, then that can be removed if that does take place, correct?
Yes, sir. Code enforcement would come in with it being non-compliant and cause the facility in its current operation through the magistrate court system.
But yeah, exactly what he said, but it does, it becomes part of the zoning though, so it's not like you do something in your A2 lot that violating A2, you don't lose your A2 status, you can buy Officer Logan, and he takes you to court.
Because you could raise cows here but not chickens doesn't mean, if you're raising chickens doesn't mean you could raise cows. So because you have a kennel doesn't mean that you couldn't live there and have personal dogs.
What is the mechanism that we have in place? I mean, as far as code enforcement, is that proactive or is that going to be reactive to any type of issue that could be there? I mean, obviously, this was discovered in a process where permitting was done, so it was sure that obviously this conditional use is going to be in what it's defined.
No trouble at all, and it goes back to Mr. Gandy's first question about the license process. There is that we do approve that we're trying to fit in the policy where we do contact GDA, licensed and state agency, to have them register as a kennel, an operation. If they're conducting business in the county, we don't require the state does if you produce 2 or more kennels for sale a year. So we're doing our due diligence by letting the state know. And that's how they get a breeder's license. They have to be a state certified kennel. To association or to have a license, they have to be verified through the state. And then whether or not that association wants to go to the federal level, you know, is up to it, where the USDA is in. But once they do a state facility, they then are maintained on an inspection schedule, and part of the schedule through their AIRS program, if any conditions or anything that we put to it, the board for approval, into that facility's checklist to make sure that they're composting and not burying, or that they only have, I use the other one, $25 or more for their checklist, because to be approved they have to meet the county standards, and it just builds step by step for that one.
Also in that, say about the 25 feet, the building that's there, it will be in the, depending on what we vote to do, it will be in the checklist that particular building cannot be used as part of the kennel.
Yes,
sir. Correct.
When they come out on their AIRS program, it'll have those key points. Start on the base level of us for what's 1 through 2, and then at the state 3 through 10, and then the feds have 11 through, in all reality, 1,000. You know, it'll all be on that top where they started from, and then it moves down. So if we say, for example, it has to be 100 foot, they make sure that no operations are within 100 foot of common property line.
Okay.
And then they reach out to us, code will answer, to help enforce it and to make sure that we don't have any issues. A lot of times they actually call us to come out with an inspection.
So it's not something like so it's not we will be doing an inspection above they take, and if there's a need, they bring us in at that point.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And if the county finds for whatever reason that they are out of compliance regarding the setbacks and the building and so forth, does have the right to rescind the conditional use.
No, the conditional use becomes part of the zoning classification. Now, the county can change the zoning classes, so they can do a board-initiated rezone to remove the conditional use, permission from it. But that's not part of the enforcement.
I mean, it is an option.
It's an option. I've never heard of it being used that way.
Yeah, we've never seen, we haven't seen it, but it's not.
Would it not be county's responsibility to notify the state of compliance?
Yeah, that would be part of this enforcement thing, which, by the way, I didn't know all this that Christopher just told us. We've had some people move upstate and fed, but we've never actually had one come to us with all this knowledge. This is nice. So yeah, so I have to defer to Christopher on what the state does. But from our perspective, again, just like if you're on an RR lot and the setback for your accessory buildings is 30 feet, or I'm just making up numbers. So the county has, you know, in addition to code enforcement, we've got building inspections and tax assessors probably find more than anybody else, because they're supposed to visit every property, physically visit it at least once every 3 years. So, so if in any comes to code enforcement's attention, there's a violation, you know, they would cite them for whatever they're violating, just like they cite you if you put your, you know, portable garage too close to the line.
They would cite them, but they would also notify.
That's what it sounds like. I'm deferring.
Yeah, established facility, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think about that direct verbiage. There's an established facility, we can report to them, they check them on their next check. And part of their note to the county to make sure. So it can go either way, whichever one happens first, the inspection or the process of them being non-compliant. Hey, there's an issue, you need to check on the establishment number. I think they're in 120,000 numbers now.
Okay.
So it goes both ways, Mr. Canolis, to let you know. Both ways.
You have a question?
No, 'cause we're in the lesson, I mean, on the process where I thought we were going to be able to ask her a question. So, I'll give her a
Well,
no, we're in the, go ahead, keep on.
We haven't had a motion or anything, so it's still open.
So, I mean, what was your question, and then maybe we'll...
Well, I didn't quite understand where we live, because I know I talked to the guy directly across from them. So where the petition, where is that, where she said you live, next door?
If you're looking at their house, it'll be on the left.
Oh,
If you're in their house, it'll be on the right.
oh, okay.
Okay, any discussion?
Can I ask Ms. Santoya one question? The barking dogs that they might have a problem with, has any of that been brought to their attention in the past? We haven't heard from any neighbors about barking dogs.
No, sir.
Also,
Because when I talked to him, he said,
Okay. All right, at this point, we've heard from the applicants, and we've heard from our code enforcement person. You've had a chance to ask additional questions. So at this point, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for to approve with conditions or deny. Please.
yes, I make the motion. I make the motion that it be approved on condition that the Vettel building will not be used for any, the kennel, and that also, the condition that it be 14 dogs, male dogs, the maximum.
you mean adult dogs?
Adult dogs, yeah, male, well, adult dogs, I'm sorry.
Okay. 14 males wouldn't do it.
I'm sorry.
I was wondering that was.
Could I suggest a further condition on that is, there's a privacy fence that Jeff talked about building.
Yeah.
Have that included as well.
You want to monitor before we carry it, or?
Okay, well, can we, okay. Well, I make make a motion to
Yeah,
approve the conditional use on the metal building not be used at all.
That no kennel facilities be closer than 100 feet.
Okay. Is that on mine?
No, I just.
Oh, okay.
Then,
Pre-existing buildings within the 100-foot barrier be used for kennel purposes.
Okay. All right. So my motion is that we, if the conditional use based on condition that no pre-existing metal building be used for any kennel use, and that privacy fence added, erected, and that also that there be a maximum of 14 adult dogs.
Okay,
Got it right.
can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been motioned by Cynthia, second by William, that the conditional use of the A2 5.02 acre property be allowed to operate a dog kennel with the condition. So any questions? We're ready to vote. We'll start.
yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Helena, this has been approved. Then we'll go before the Board of Commissioners on July the 11th. You do not have to be there, but I suggest that you do. In opposition, I suggest that you be there also to state your opposition to the Board of Commissioners, because they do have a final say. All right? Mr. Attorney, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the only place I find the requirement to be present is in the context of a rezoning application within the zoning ordinance. Preliminary plat approvals are not part of the zoning ordinance. They're part of the subdivision regs, and I don't find anything there that says. So I think, obviously the board can vote to recommend denial questions that you can't get answered because the applicant's not here.
We're up to the board as to what to do, but as far as my opinion of it is, I think he told him that no further action will be taken until he comes to the next public hearing of the planning and zoning and present the preliminary plat.
Well, and here's what, Mr. Chairman, is, so section 8.9 of your subdivisions regs say that the commission shall review the preliminary plat and within 30 days disapproval or approval with conditions. If the commission fails to take action within that 30 days, it's considered to bear the commission's recommendation for approval. So remand is not one of your, postponement is not one of your options.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong,
He was at the business meeting, right?
and answered a lot of questions.
He did. He did not officially present, I guess, the preliminary plat, other questions. So going back to the county attorney, sir, what recommendation then? Because it's up to him to show up.
So if you think that it should be denied because he didn't show up, then that would be your motion.
Maybe we should
Or
establish
you
that we
could-
have
you-
questions that can't be answers to that only he can answer first. Is that appropriate?
You've got to take some action within 30 days. So if you've got another meeting coming up within 30 days, but you got to take some action within either tonight or within 30 days of tonight.
Okay, the 30 days from, 30 days from tonight, 30 days from when he was here on the business meeting. Now, is it 30 days from then, or is it 30 days from now?
That was 30 days from now,
I believe so.
is my interpretation.
And I agree with that I agree with that, because what it says is once planning staff find that everything's in that needs to be, they put it on the agenda for you. This is the meeting at which staff's put it on your agenda for your review. He just failed to show up for it. So I think 30 days starts now.
One of the things, I guess one of the things that concerned me, and I want to be clear in doing this, is it was advertised to the public here tonight about this, okay? He didn't show up. So now, if we redo it at our next meeting, the public can do.
So there's no public hearing requirement for plat reviews.
Right, and I didn't know that until after the fact. Mike had told me that. So, lesson learned on that. You don't have to advertise.
Okay, well, that's fine.
But just for the preliminary or plat approvals?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
I'll make sure I didn't miss it.
Yeah.
Step all of a sudden.
Everything else, board approval.
What you guys on DOC has?
Board members, what do you want to do?
Cause I did about,
Well,
Make
it's
a motion.
because this isn't the zoning. That's why it has to be advertised.
I got you.
So if it's not, he has 30 days to come back.
It'd still go, if there was a deny, to deny, sorry, not deny. If there was a vote to deny, you correct me if I'm
Recommend
wrong. You can recommend denial, the fact that he did not show up to present or take
To answer
your
our
questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
then,
it'll go to the BOC.
then they can still reprimand it back.
They can remand it back, that's right.
Or they can deny, or,
Let me make sure that, but.
but that's whether, Mr. Chairman, you decide to, put it off to vote. I don't know the right word to use in that case, I'm sorry. We have until the 19th to take an action on it.
That's right.
That'd be the 30 days.
So that would be another option, is just to your business meeting, which would still be within that 30 days, and you could do it.
Or the 19th. So we'd have two options.
If I could offer, I mean, I remember, him answering a lot of our questions, last time, and I think that, well, I've talked to him, I guess that may have qualified, although I understand I'm just trying to not be kind of a punishment on him. But I'm not trying to say that we should rush ahead on this thing. I think probably we need to get these straightened out and come in with.
So, do you have a motion or something to that effect? You want the planning and zoning to notify him that we can, that since he wasn't here tonight, that we will at the business meeting, which falls within the 30 days.
Yes, sir, I think so.
Well,
And I mean, we'd be more than happy to reach out to them at y'all's request to ask that. Or
Just to give.
hopefully nothing bad happened, I mean.
I mean, that will,
get it in with the Board of Commissioners the following Monday.
Yeah.
no, yes, because we meet before the Board of Commissioners.
We meet on the 5th.
We meet on the 5th, and they meet on
No hearing requirement, so,
Yeah.
they could take it up if they might want to wait until they're ready.
Yeah.
When they usually do it, which would be the first of the month following.
But they could also take it up at the end too. VOC could take it up at either meeting,
Correct.
in the month of July,
Correct.
so.
Yeah.
That-
But it's up
that-
to y'all if you wanted to take it up at your next business meeting, or if you want to make him wait until the 9th. That is,
that falls in the,
right at it.
that falls in the 30 days.
Yeah, because Today's the 21st.
Twenty-first, and it'll be
Yeah.
the 19th.
So, yeah, that's right. So less than 30 meetings, 30 days to your next.
To the next meeting.
Public
Or next
hearing.
public hearing.
Well, I'm kind of I guess, like to have things structured, so I'd like to have it on our next public hearing night, which is the 19th.
That's the reason I know if it did fall in that 30 days to have it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, I think you're right.
some sort of motion to that.
I would like that effect, so we can put it on record that we will notify him, and we don't know the circumstances of why he didn't show up tonight, but we will give him the opportunity to come on the 19th. And then the Board of Commissioners at their August meeting.
On the 19th or the 5th?
19th.
19th. 30 days.
19th still be within our 30 days, and that's our public hearing meeting night.
Yes, sir.
Is that clear as mud? If I can get a motion to that effect, and then we'll move on.
Yes, sir. If you don't mind, I would like to move that, due to the unexpected, non-appearance of Larkin, that we, take this 19th July business
Public hearing.
public hearing. I'm sorry, public hearing.
Okay. Second it.
Can one more time, Ray, please?
Sure. Due to the failure to appear by Mr. Larkin, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends that the matter be brought up again at the 19th public hearing.
Okay.
Does it need to be part of the motion for
Most things say.
Lindsay, to specifically request or let him know that this is going on and to request that he be here?
So that would fly. That would fly. That's perfect, yeah. We were just talking about the intricacies of what that's called. And
Okay,
Rephrase it.
Did I get a second? I second. Okay, we have a motion by Bruce Kenneth that we address this issue again on July 19th, public hearing meeting. Okay,
Yes.
yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Got it? Okay. All right. Now, I guess we're getting to, our amendments.
We'll close the public hearing.
Public hearing.
No, you do public hearings on these there.
Well,
Oh, wait a minute.
well,
You're right.
well, if we do, we're getting the cart before the horse. This has not been presented to us,
So they need that.
so therefore we can't.
Oh, you're just discussing these.
We
You're
can't
not
have a
doing-
public
You're not to
hearing.
that point yet. I'm sorry. My bad.
I thought we
Yeah.
discussed it the previous meeting, and we
We
were supposed to vote.
discussed the
on it.
cemetery part of it,
Cemetery, but
these others.
Yeah, and that's not that's not to be voted on. Only the private cemeteries are to be voted on tonight. The rest of them we're just talking about, for the open meeting.
But we could set off the vote until the end of July. It doesn't have to be.
Well, Christina, the county clerk, had told me that all of these can be picked up on July 11th,
It can be
meeting.
picked up, that's the reason they were talking about it. All right.
Yeah.
Public hearing on these for tonight?
No, sir, just the private cemeteries. The others, we're just discussing, talking about those.
Okay, so that means that the Board of Commissioners won't be taking these up on July 11th, because you want to do your public hearing on that.
Actually, we could take it up on the 5th. They can still vote on it on the
Let me look at my notes on here.
Sure. That's where part of this summer fund.
All right, those will be voted on at our July,
What will? These
other amendments that we're considering tonight.
Well,
And then this is where,
these,
Point of
don't
contact.
all of these have to have public hearings?
yes.
If I'm correct, all of these have to have public hearings. So therefore,
Well, we were having to introduce portions of our meeting into public hearing, just a regular meeting,
conversation.
that way as I was directed.
Right.
Like Franklin County and the big
Yeah,
things.
which you can do, but.
And that's where I was getting pressure to get.
So the public hearing date that was advertised
Yeah.
for these three items, 3, 4, and 5,
Okay.
is
So
20.
you're
July
planning,
10th.
7-5.
you're planning to business discuss.
And even though it's a regular business, include that public hearing, is how I was directed
And
to.
that's what,
So can we not,
Yeah, I mean,
yes, ma'am,
you know, make it.
that's fine. Means
I beg your pardon?
so-
May I have the petition back?
Okay.
I don't have a copy of it.
Oh, okay, sure.
You need a copy of it,
Well,
I can take a picture, scan and email it to you
I
if you'd
would,
like.
I would, I would
Okay,
suggest
thank
that
you.
you should, yeah.
I've been having,
Uh,
trying to figure this out. Struggling. We're trying to make it like we have.
But this is all, so, I mean, they need to know it's all on the paper.
to the public hearing?
Now let's make sure, Ms. Tracy.
yes, we can, yes, we can, but the problem,
We have advertised.
the problem that I have with that is the public is not going to be, have not had the opportunity to be here tonight to hear the discussion.
But we don't advertise business meetings.
What's happening with this one, as I'm figuring out here, is, so they've already sent it, so this one's being moved off cycle.
Yes.
So that this will be you're gonna do your business discussion of this tonight. Already been sent to the paper that you're going to do a public hearing on these on stuff. And then the officials will have their public hearing on these on the 11th, which guidelines of state law. It just, now you're doing,
I was instructed.
I totally agree that we're all within the guidelines. We're not breaking any rules, not breaking any rules. The problem that I have, I'm gonna say this one time, I'm gonna shut up. The problem that I have is the public. When we get off cycle like this, I think the public, if I was sitting out there, I would hear the discussion of these items presented to the board, and then I want to be able to think about them, and I may want to contact Lee, I may want to contact Christopher, I may want to have some answers from this board votes on them. So that's the problem that I have. I don't have any problem with us being off cycle, but I'm a public person. I have every right that they deserve.
I thought we discussed this last meeting.
Yeah.
A little bit, but not in detail.
The cemetery we did.
But now we advertise business
We did
meetings.
do the cemetery.
Yeah, we didn't do.
We
didn't discuss the cemetery, but the other ones we did.
discussed the cemeteries, and we're voting on that tonight. We're just now discussing to vote on July 5th.
Yeah.
Item 3, 4, and 5 say discuss.
So they're, right. So they're on your agenda for tonight, just like they would have been by the business meeting.
Okay, well, we'll get all this resolved at a later date, so let's just move out on the agenda tonight and,
Okay, wait.
hopefully we'll get this.
The month of June.
But I have there's another problem with the cemetery.
Roger that.
Yes. Even though you can talk about, you're not ready to do this, to vote on it.
Well, I agree that we're off cycle. What we are doing in the same fashion is in the same way that we handle rezones. We get the information, we have a business meeting, which the public has the opportunity to be here, but it's not advertised, and they don't know. That's where we discuss these things, and then there's the public. In the same way, that's what we're doing here. We're going to discuss these tonight, with the public hearing being on the 5th.
So this is our public hearing.
This is only a public hearing for those items.
This,
Yeah.
but this cemetery thing, the public hearing will be on the 5th, because we're not ready.
4 and 5, your public hearing will be on the 5th. Number 2, you need to do your public hearing tonight. It was advertised for tonight.
Okay, we're missing 3, 4, and
I
5.
think we got tonight's agenda.
We didn't get tonight's agenda, that's why.
It was in your packet.
Yeah, you got tonight's agenda.
No,
I put
I
all
did.
the amendments in your packet.
is it? I only have a packet from last week.
She emailed it to us, absolutely.
Yeah, I know she emailed, but.
And I did hard copies too.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well, move on, so, Christopher, you gonna present this,
This is May 7th.
Cemetery.
Cemetery.
are you gonna present cemetery?
I'm still trying to catch up, so. The cemeteries, county, currently, as we talked about at the visit, has several criteria laid out for religious, public, cemeteries, but however, when we start getting into the realm of private cemeteries, we have guidelines whatsoever. What's presented to y'all, in the red writing with cemeteries is match statements from the state guidelines areas that have only been amended to have the county setbacks and the county zoning, and the references where it comes in, what section. If you're looking at it, what guidelines you have to follow that are already pre-existing. And then the last, or the third page, if you will, the third and fourth page are the permit process, ability, things just suggested for while you were looking at it or thinking about it. I also added in a reference to the health department in case you do pass away, hopefully none of us here, do pass away from communicable diseases, to make sure that you are buried in a vault, even if it's a private cemetery, so you water stable with yellow fever, for example, which stays in your marrow, but that's not. And then the right for appeal or denial in that process as well. So we mirrored the state, fit in our zoning, and then we've also added in a safeguard with the state health department coming into that, and then in case we do deny somebody their fit their mean Uncle Ned into the ground for some reason, that there's a denial from there as well. But with this, the big question, whether or not Madison County's don't allow private cemeteries or not. We only have it referenced in one section, is that right?
Yes, it's in A2. However, it's permitted in every single zone.
But no zone talks about it except A2, and it's just
and we do have a definition, but it's nowhere else in the.
Only 3 in the county since planning and zoning came in 1994. I know I'm on record right now. They were never, in my mind, properly done. They met state guidelines, but did not take into effect any county zoning. A good mentality, to me, that's what planning and zoning is, a good neighbor mentality. They didn't take it into effect.
Did we have anything in writing that they should take into effect?
Just add, there's a definition. You can do it anywhere.
We were always told to the public that they could do that, as long as they followed state guidelines that way.
And that's really the way, as I'm looking at your ordinance, So you have a definition of it, and you have it permitted in every zone. Requirements over and above just saying you can do it for private cemeteries, which you do have for public cemeteries and religious cemeteries. Like somebody overlooked something many, many years ago when they wrote this ordinance.
So we were asked, and I'm so sorry, I see, I'm not trying to be rude, we were asked to create. We looked at what the state did and said that suits our needs, we just need to add in our setbacks. So you don't bury too close to a water source, you don't bury in the floodplain. But I'm sorry, it's first, or ladies first, either way.
No.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, making things plain and simple.
Yes, ma'am. I'm right with you.
What they want us to do. Private cemeteries are gonna fall under the same guidelines or ordinance as public but we're just.
No, we're just adding for private cemeteries. We already have the structure in place for public cemeteries and religious cemeteries. They're separate. We're just adding in on.
I know, but.
Okay, sorry.
I just wanna know the private cemeteries, we're just looking at the red.
Just looking at the red, just private.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, none of these guidelines are for private?
No. We get into some really fun laws our lawyers can talk about stepping into a religious institution.
Yeah, I mean, well, you'll see this is 973, so 971 is a set of rules and requirements for public cemeteries. 972 is a set of rules and requirements for religious cemeteries. But you didn't have a set of rules and requirements for private cemeteries.
And all we did when it follows in was to make it simple. If it was adopted, it could go straight in.
And this is only for private cemeteries from this day forward?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The grandfather that's in the ground can still be a granddaddy in the ground.
All right. 9.7, all structures and markers must be set back no less than 25 feet from any property line, street right railroad line. Is that the state requirement or is that Madison County requirement?
The 25 feet is set by the state from their right-of-way on a state road. So whether or not we matched ours, because we have 15 and 20, let's go with the furthest back or the most constricting by rule of thumb. So instead of saying you have to be 25 foot off of the highway, but you can be 10 foot off your back property line, we made sure it was one number for the entire distance, rather than, say, setbacks on mobile homes where you can be 20 foot off the back, 15 foot from the side, and you can put it right up on the right-of-way.
And if I'm reading this correctly, Christopher,
Yes, sir.
the 25 feet is also the requirement for private and religious cemeteries.
Yes.
So this would be the same for private.
I'm so sorry.
But it's 50 feet from any kind of.
Yeah, from Western Arterial Expressway or freeway.
Be the state number that the county didn't have at all, since we don't have a freeway
Yeah, we don't have
in the
those
county,
kinds
but
of roads.
the future, and that's the reason we left it in. We have no idea what the 72 corridor is.
And that 50 feet is that 9734.
Yeah.
That exact same language is in 971 for
Mhm.
and in 972 for religious cemeteries.
So we just mirrored everything.
That is for graves and buildings, structures.
Yes, let's say it right.
Okay.
The same,
The reason I ask that is if you look under 9716, which
Mhm.
falls under public cemeteries, B, sketch plan,
Mhm.
it says all buildings must be placed not less than 50 feet.
Mhm. And it should say 50.
It should be 25.
Wait, you're saying it says 50 and we said 25 in another area?
It says 50.
On purpose?
We'll go one more time.
116.
Correct. If you'll go down to B, where it says a sketch plan.
Yeah, one approval.
The second sentence under that, it says all buildings must be placed not less than 50 feet from any property line.
Which is 9733.
Mine says 25. So you're saying mine says 25.
Mine says 50.
Mine says 25.
Mine said 25.
That's just one.
Huh.
How's yours say 50?
You know, the funny thing is, we sent out at the same time.
Because like, I didn't get whatever they're talking about, those other ones, I did not get that.
Yeah, from this, it was sent.
Yeah, it's just
It says
all
50.
red.
All red.
Now, where are you reading that
No, you're
from?
reading, that's out of our
That's
book.
the public.
That's public.
So is public different than a private?
Yes,
State size,
we're
yes.
creating
Oh, yeah.
a private.
We don't,
Yeah.
there is
Oh, I see
no,
where, yeah.
I know we
Right,
are.
it's private.
I know we are,
Public,
but
yeah,
for public, would it be 50 and 25?
yes, and that's state guidelines for the mayor.
I thought, okay, I was looking for,
Yeah,
What's
that
confusing,
way-
Ms. Lee, is there's a typo on this. This one says 9, it should say 9736. See that, Christopher?
Yeah, it does.
All the red starts flowing together. I've got my note right there. Move to approve, but we can also put it off until the 19th. Yes, sir. So patient, sir.
I just, the private cemeteries.
Yes, sir.
Now, is this a commercial or enterprise or the family plot? Or how many guests or makes a private cemetery as opposed to somebody just buried?
Yeah. Now, this is where the state, and I'm sure our attorney will probably correct my un-PC-edness.
Not my forte.
Thanks. So no backup. Private versus public or religious or anything, say a company or a community, like Memorial Gardens here in Danielsville, where you may privately own land that is owned industrial. Well, no, we don't have, but business or A2 or RR, that starts coming down to the entity themselves over. The 3 families that have reached out to me are all primarily large acreage tracts that want to set a half acre or better for a family cemetery because churches are running out of plots or the gardens where nations are and they're trying to plan in advance. None of them have asked a business or a gas station. I may want to be buried next to money right now, I guess, if you're buried at a gas station, but it has to come down with the entity of ownership.
Definitions may be different than the state ones, but I'm looking at our zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
A private cemetery is for the burial of deceased persons of one collateral line of descent. That's the family. Just as religious cemeteries are for burial of deceased persons who are generally members of that religious institution. And the public cemetery, as I read it,
But when you start looking at the state and the entity, the branch, where, like as a county, we look at it, say, Eddie, you know, that's 2 families, but we married and, not me and Eddie, but, you know, a child came from both of us, and then the lineage and names separate, and then you get into the denunciation of affinity.
Yeah. Degree. So, yeah.
Which, just because you're my 8th cousin, 4th removed, doesn't mean you can or cannot.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon.
I mean, you pick up on that process,
Yeah.
but that starts getting into a thin due to
Should
the
it
misappropriation of
be,
ownership of an entity.
Yeah. So that state uses the entity ownership. That's how they do it. Okay.
should there be restrictions on what, when, like?
Well, see, that's where it originally came from, is Madison County.
I know just like land use map, it's got them in everything, you could have a cemetery lot on R3,
Yeah.
Business and industrial.
business and industrial.
You may have really been tied to GRP and want to be in their backyard for some
Yeah.
reason, I don't know.
But my opinion that we should back off on that a little bit on that land use, cause we should not have a cemetery next to R3. Cause how many people want to live on this town,
can't have a townhome with a mausoleum,
Liam.
sorry, next door. It may be a pretty structure, you know, but I don't necessarily want my kid climbing on somebody's tombstone, you know.
Is that something that has to be decided with this, or is that something that can be decided later? About
We can adjust it later if the board decides that they would like to outline the cemetery.
So with that historical?
Historical's already set in.
No, I mean what he's saying about right next to, like you said, you don't
Yeah.
want them climbing on but if it's in a historical area, which might be a R, a business or.
Once it's a graveyard too, it's a detriment to the community as a whole, or the family decides to exhume the body and remove it elsewhere. And I see you, Mr. Gandy, I'm so sorry. We have graveyards and subdivisions right now, and nobody knew about it until they went out to Perk and Madison Avenue and Madison Boulevard, right over there off of Highway 72. We've got subdivisions with setbacks.
A real point of clarification, I guess, if you look at 7.5.1, we're down to R2, medium and high density two-family residential. It says religious institution cemeteries provided these uses provided requirements for Article 9 are met. Why is religious? And that carries down to, I think, R1 is when it first happens.
Yes. There was so much added, deleted, and modified since 1994. Say private cemeteries, for instance, where we didn't find everywhere it was mentioned prior to. We edited it, and nobody ever looked back. We have so many. Look, reference a section that was deleted in 2012. And it takes some work sometimes trying to find out. Somebody that has an older zoning book line in it, we're trying to figure out where it's at because they have it, they can send it to us. We spent 3 days in the basement trying to hold the zoning book, and then we found it, and then in the process of going from 2007 to 2022, it wasn't there, and it took us 3 days to find out what was deleted, and it was wound up shifting into section 12. It doesn't have anything to do with cemeteries, but
according to the written right now is that zones you think you could put a cemetery that only can be a religious cemetery.
yes, at this point, the way it sits without us editing, I'm not sure the right way.
Well, I think you're gonna have to revise, if you're gonna change
Easy cleaned up. Yeah.
anything private versus public, versus, you're gonna have to change them all to make them all fit the same.
Agreed.
Now, I think that we're gonna have to, in my opinion, that we're gonna have to restrict where they go. Cause if you got a 2-acre piece of property that's zoned RR, and you wanna take an acre of that and make it a private cemetery next door to your neighbor, I think that's kinda inappropriate.
And
I wouldn't want that.
And you can't make that new parcel non-conforming parcel therein.
No.
Well, I'm sure subdivisions got restrictions on that.
You know, that may be a covenant. So.
We have a lot of subdivisions without covenants.
Yeah.
Every subdivision doesn't have a covenant.
But that's a good point. Just like the chairman's saying is, if you have an RR and you take that acre, now you're living on a 1 acre and not created a cemetery, and then your neighbor right next door is perking into your cemetery. You know, just for an example, having runoff, which isn't conducive. And I like the way Mr. Gandy said it was cleaning up the cemetery acts, and while we were told to get this in a timely manner, taking it very seriously, and turning of somebody's body body. It's not something that's easily done to change or anything like that. And I have asked everybody that has called me in regards to the private cemeteries to please not die until we figure it out. So
Well,
I hope they do that.
we're talking about cemeteries, but isn't it true that you can actually bury it if you wanted to?
Depends on who finds out.
Well, understand, I don't think there's a state law restriction on that, is there, Christopher?
Unless they communicable disease.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
so
where the
you
guidelines
could,
come.
you could just take them out in the backyard and bury them.
Why don't we have a size for cemetery? Why would that not also be, I mean, as we're talking about cleaning things up, why would we, because the example that was provided there of you're gonna take an acre or half acre away from an RR, then you're creating an conforming.
Correct.
Yeah. So, we're always looking at minimums when it comes down to sizes, the maximum size. So if you only have say a 2-acre RR, I would strongly suggest that they not consider doing it to each their own, and through that request, but to have it as a cemetery, and using an outline for private cemeteries, you then have to plat it as such. So we could deny it plat side for being too small, making a non-conforming lot. I had 28 cases today. My tongue's getting tied. Yes,
Because
ma'am.
I know the way it stands when a plat is, sent to me, I've always said if it's for graveyard, cemetery, that it's okay to approve it. So is that something that's
That's
gonna need
something
to
that we
be
need to change
addressed?
in there because of the parcel size. It is a big, it is a big discussion, that has many facets. This is just giving a baseline for us to continue that conversation for private. The thing we're saying is extremely valid. Do we approve it in the office? Is it going to make a non-conforming lot? How big can a cemetery be? Could I 100-acre A2 right now into a family cemetery and tell everybody that show that they can't tell us now it's a cemetery? There's going to have to be some limitations or guidelines. Maybe, sorry for using that wrong word, but some guidelines to go through. Start from somewhere. We want to build a house, but we got to put that first brick down to come up. And we have in place religious public cemeteries. Now we put the next brick down where we have private cemeteries. And then we go and just continue to.
Well, putting this, doing this and changing this and making, how does that affect the discussion with the comprehensive plan, or does it have anything to do with it?
This has nothing to do with the comprehensive plan. This has to do with community outreach during the comprehensive plan.
Well, I mean,
but now,
looking at the comprehensive plan.
yeah.
Okay, the plan may say, well, this is not allowed in this area.
Yeah.
Cemetery is not allowed in this area. I mean, that's the reason I asked. We're changing this right now in the middle of something that's going on, this great big,
ordeal.
Is that going to have any?
I guess it conceivably could. I think probably more, I mean, if I understand what Christopher's saying, there's just a gap. There's just somebody out this section 973. Zoning ordinance is originally written because you have 3 kinds of cemeteries, but you only have requirements for 2 of those 3. So this is just basically some mirror requirements for that 3rd category, which is private, pretty much the same as the other 2 categories. I would think probably on the land use plan, comprehensive plan, where it might come in would be more on the larger public, commercial public cemetery sorts of things. Those are appropriate. Right now, they're conditional uses in 4 different zones, I think. It may be. I don't know. I took a quick
Sorry,
And,
I didn't mean to.
and conceivably, you know, it could come to, you know, who knows what it will be, could have input on this too. But this is, from my perspective, I don't see a legal problem with this because it's just plugging in some provisions for that third type of cemetery that are pretty much the same as the other two, just adjusted for state law differences. Gives you a base you would then move from depending on what the comprehensive process tells you.
Can I ask something, on the 97.3.5 and under B, number 4, the fencing, is that state or is that just what Madison County wants?
Wait, say what?
9.7.3.5. The entire cemetery property must be landscaped fenced and maintained. I could see the landscape and maintenance. Why? Because I'm private. I mean, a public cemetery fence. So why are we requiring?
Because private.
But still, that's extra.
But if you're setting it aside as a, and this is some of that state mirroring as well. Say for, don't go plat and everything, and say they had 2 acres to give out and everything, and through the divisions of the family and what have you, people had dogs, people had cows, a donkey, llamas, I don't know. Say animals, for instance, they didn't want them getting into it, even though it's a communal property. When it's first conceived in the process of that conception, not only are you giving up the land, but you should be able to define the land and not have public in-source coming in.
But it should be.
Now, the state, that's just state mirroring on that one. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, but
That's
I'm
what
saying,
the
I've
state
never seen a cemetery fence. Even the little ones I see that are in the, churches, religious.
And the religious are.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen a public one, and some of the private ones, I've never seen anybody fence them.
Madison County would be that.
Right, that's what I'm saying, why?
I haven't said that, I've never seen religious cemeteries fence, I've never seen public fence. But I kinda agree with this thing of private cemeteries. If you go make a plot out here in the middle of, and it's private.
Yeah.
I can see.
Our family cemetery's in Monroe, because it started in 1815. It's got an ornamental, I mean, it's not a chain link fence, you know, with barbed wire around the top of it. It's just an ornamental fence, basically. It's 1 acre that was taken out of the original Smith family property, but I mean, there isn't, it's not gonna keep anybody or anything really necessarily out of it, but I mean, there
give
is.
a definition to where it is.
Definition as a
Exactly.
private cemetery.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I could see, you could see a lot of cemeteries, you can see it's the definition that
Yeah.
this is a cemetery. But I'm saying, shouldn't that be, something that's a decision by the family, or?
If it's to define, and I was thinking that might be the case because there are state laws on abandoned cemeteries and exhumated bodies and things like that. So to that extent, it's helpful to have some way of putting a developer, a landowner, whomever on alert that there may be a cemetery here. I mean, I remember years ago when my Oconee County attorney was out of town, and he told him to call me if anything came up, and the road crew called on the road because they just hit a bone. So turned out it was not a human bone, but
I'm
if that happens, that's what you have to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying, else defines that. Now that we have this, it would, you have to have a plat and all this, so it would define that area.
Well, you'd be stakes in the ground, same thing going out with some of these cemeteries we do find throughout Madison County. The headstones have collapsed over the years. A stone marker, nobody knew they were there until a road crew comes by, or in the Madison Avenue and Boulevards, and they were digging for a septic line and found a casket. And that was an old graveyard there, and there were no pins, because on their plat it referred to creeks and banks and rocks from the standards.
So basically, this is brought to us from a request of citizens.
Mhm.
They want some sort of guidelines to be able to establish bare minimum to serve the people who have brought it to you
Yes.
so far.
And,
Okay.
sir, yes.
Okay, one of the questions, prior to approval of the request for the location of new cemetery, a site plan and perpetual care plan must be submitted to the Madison County Planning and Zoning Commission. What would constitute a perpetual?
Who in the deed of the property or in the recorded as a plat of record is the responsible party, and whether or not that's through a will or deed or a transfer of the property. So,
So essentially, it's fingering someone that's held responsible for that, not necessarily that it's I've got to call this company.
yeah, no. It's either the deed process or et cetera, to how it's going to be passed down through the family.
Often set up as a trust through the board of trustees, just as a charitable trust, so it can have perpetual existence.
And you start getting into it with in case of the church founders.
Correct.
As well, the congregation of how many years they were in, the cemetery still has to be kept up, or either we start going into what's happening right in front of the building with the city's responsibility to weed eat the grass.
So how is this gonna be enforced?
Be civil action between them.
So we're
and
gonna have
passing
somebody
them.
go around?
Yeah. Are you weed eating around your town? It's just who is the biggest thing, and that's the perpetual care. If there is an issue with it, say we don't, and somebody's dogs or something, cow goes in there and knocks a gravestone, whose responsibility is it going to be to take that person to court to fix the gravestone? Is it the family, somebody that lives in Hawaii that has an issue because they saw a picture on Facebook? Or is it going to be somebody who, when Papa died, in his will, he said, Bruce Gandy was going to be the one for his generation that keeps cows from knocking over headstones.
Right.
Bruce said, nah, Papa never talked to me about that. Will, you the one, you live in Georgia, you take care of it. There's just a process of a limit. We got something in place to go through that so that we're not wasting court time.
So does it have
4
to
years.
be fenced before or when the first grade goes down?
The first grave goes in, it's my understanding of the state
Be
law.
part of the site plan.
No. So if it's on you and you want to do it, before you die, build that fence. I'm just saying.
So us being a recommending body, you're looking for a motion to approve or would be fine.
To go forward, but we have 30 days if the board would like more time. I'm not meaning to throw that wrench in everything that's been coming on. If y'all feel, because we're in of somebody's body forever.
But you need to have intentions, you need to have a public hearing on this.
This is over here. This is over here for this.
Yeah, but, we're doing staff presentation.
Yeah.
Remember, Scott had the call from the.
We haven't called for public hearing yet.
But we could do the same as what we were talking
Yeah,
about.
we'll do the public, this is all done, said and done.
I don't think it's been done. Let me suggest this. All the discussion has been good. We've raised a lot of good issues. Would it be good to take all of the comments that have been raised here today, for you to go back, interject things that might be appropriate? I mean, whatever the case may be, would it be best to fine-tune this in your office and then bring that back to business and be ready to vote on it on the 19th?
Advertising.
Yeah.
And it was scheduled to be voted on tonight, so it has to run 2 weeks in the paper. Now, when we were talking about the preliminary plat, that's no problem, we don't advertise. But in this, it's advertised.
But do we have to vote?
But we don't have to vote on it tonight.
Can we vote to postpone it?
We got 30
As long as it's
30
on
days.
30
Yeah,
days?
we got the 30 days
You can have
to
it
re-advertise it. We
I
couldn't
just
do it
think we
at the
need
very
more
next
time to
business.
work.
We
Right,
could do
I
that at the
couldn't
end
get
of
it
July.
in until
more than
week
what the
after
state
next.
has.
What Ms. Mitchell's suggesting is go ahead and have a public hearing tonight,
Mm-hmm,
but as long as they vote within that 30 days.
okay, and it wouldn't have to be re-advertised?
Correct. Because the public
Okay.
hearing has already occurred.
Okay.
And then, if anybody was interested in it, they could look at minutes of the video and find
Yeah.
out that it was
Next
kind
time.
They knew we bring
Well,
that
you're not
tonight
going to
for a
take any
vote.
more public comment again anyway.
Yeah, it'd just be taken
Yeah.
up for a
Public
vote.
comments tonight, just for the board here to have time to think about it
Yeah.
before they vote.
Well, I'll ask the question, is everybody ready to vote on it?
I was gonna let you know, answer your question first off.
Okay.
I'm sorry. This round robin on you. With the exception of the one letter, or one number needing to be edited, I would not have brought it to y'all unless I thought it was ready. The fine tuning process, if you will, we need something to work from to start. Instead of going into a cleanup phase, we won't know how to adjust the conditional or permitted use chart, or to effectively know if we need to change it in a zoning, one industrial or R3. We need that brick to build from.
So you recommend that we vote on it, yea or nay, or postpone it until another time and work on it?
Don't put me on the spot or anything. I saw Bruce's hand up. If y'all, I would ask for a vote. If y'all did not feel comfortable, I would be more than happy to work with y'all in answering any questions, but I feel in the material.
Before we vote or whatever. I just kind of have maybe looking at this, like, there's a possibility that, you know, like the cemeteries now are filling up, and people are not having room to go to their, religious cemetery, the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to find cemeteries. They're burying people on top of. So, I have a question with these 30 days and 60 days, and what do you don't have 30 days. You don't have, so that's what that's kind of, you know, there's a lot to look at.
The meat processors are filled up too, so there's no coal packing right now. It's a lot, and between the phone calls that I've gotten,
Yeah.
and the phone calls that Todd's gotten from separate families. I've got 2 in my office, Todd had 2 in his, so that's where the 4 comes from. Sorry, that's in the office. The public wants to know, and when 4, you know, related parties with the same matter, it's kind of like, wow, you know, they want.
Well, I've got a little bit of a concern.
Yes, sir.
You know, Lee said, you know, for you to take it back and go over it. And you said you've done everything that you think that you need to do as far as that's concerned.
But that doesn't mean I
But
disrespect
what I want the board to think about is, and you're the guy that's going to vote, to determine whether we vote tonight or have some different kind of vote or whatever. Are you satisfied? Is there something in here that you might want to consider and maybe change? If so, then tonight's not the night to vote for.
One of the things that I was just throwing out here, and entirely changed, but to the document you're proposing.
Yes, sir.
But it's with private cemeteries. Within the districts permitting private environment shall apply. I think at some point I don't see a reason for the R R2s, R3s, even R1s to have private cemeteries. I mean, that would make things a lot easier. But then again, I don't know if the conditional uses of the other.
Well, that's another amendment to the zoning ordinance. It would have to also be advertised for public hearing and come back through this
Well, I
process.
don't want to make things too complicated.
And that's the reason I try to use open-ended verbiage.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't say in all districts, just districts where it can apply, so I have to go back and re-edit this, at the next meeting, to where if we did it in the chart, it's already worded to accept that.
Voted on this tonight, and this is for you.
Yes, sir.
We voted on this tonight. Can, a condition be that these private cemeteries not R or R1? I want to move this forward, and we want to vote tonight.
Yes.
Can the verbiage be as a condition? They can't be an R, they can't be an R, like Bruce, if that's what Bruce might want to say.
Shooting from the hip here, two thoughts. One is that could be challengeable. It wasn't sufficient notice to the public of that, because we didn't advertise changes to the charts or of the permitted and conditional uses within Chapter 7. We only asked 973. The other part of that is, as Dresser explained, the chart and the text is absent, so that's going to have, all of this is going to have to come back to you for that reason, if no other.
Yeah.
And that would also be the opportunity to say, we don't in this one or that one, or conditionally in this one anymore.
So, like that's the brick, and then the next one on top of that would be, okay, we're gonna allow that here, but not there.
But it would allow the people who've requested to move forward with a private cemetery, though, that opportunity that, to what they've asked of us.
Well, and they can do one now with no guidelines.
I mean, so we're really not holding them up.
Yeah, really helpful.
But what they're,
Somebody comes in with a request to put a private cemetery on R3, see guidelines, would they be turned down because of the?
But with using the guidelines, in R3, for example, could they do it and meet their setbacks inside that little acreage? Could they meet their setback, not making a non-conforming lot by creating a new parcel? So that's, while we're building upon this, that's where we're holding those smaller parcels of concern to the R3s. Just like that. Now with the whole building thing, can you fit that building on your property and meet setbacks? This just instead of it being property is in the property, and they still have to create a whole new plat. So that plat has to be approved with their proposed site plan and setbacks.
But what if you have more than, what if you have 5 acres?
Yeah, but, and then that would be A2 and where it sits now, how big of a lot you want to take.
Yeah, I don't like when you guys are away from 5 acres. I think what you're basically saying is, Chairman said, there's no restrictions right now.
No.
This is a step in the right direction. It may not be as far as we need to go, but you're going to become back. You'll be coming back.
Unfortunately, yes. Well, I don't mean unfortunately. It's
Okay,
just a lot. But
you know,
these two guys.
At the point, I think we've been enlightened quite a bit, with a lot of discussion or whatever. I'd like to go ahead and do the public hearing at this point, and then bring it back to the public discussion and a motion, if appropriate, to approve the conditions, deny, or any other motion that we may delay it a different date. So, at this point, I would like to open up the public hearing and ask if there is anybody here that wants to speak in favor of this, what you call this,
It's a text amendment.
text amendment to the zoning ordinance on private cemeteries. Is there anybody here who wants to speak in favor of that? Hearing none, is there anybody here that wants to speak in opposition to? Is there anybody here who wants to speak in opposition to? None? We'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for any further final discussion and a motion. Again, to approve with conditions, or any other motion to postpone until a further date.
Just a point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
If we vote on this tonight, include the text for the other
That was
suggested
consideration for y'all.
considerations. So it's just,
Yeah, I see what's on there.
Sorry that I just sent it all in red so you know it wasn't on there. That's the reason there's other suggestion changes
Right.
or additions below wanted to take on this. And all y'all would not, by approving it in its entirety, is sending this to the BOC, and those also being listed as their suggestions going along, which they received from staff anyway. I just wanted to show y'all the same courtesy. Sorry.
Would they have a preliminary plat, would they have to come back to the planning and zoning and present it to the planning and zoning?
Preliminary plan.
Yeah. Would they have to go just like a regular zone? Subdivision?
Subdivision,
Yeah.
probably. So it would just be a plat approval, probably just be an administrative plat approval.
Administrative.
Wouldn't have to come here as a subdivision.
No need for that.
Oh, you mean before, I'm so sorry.
We-
Before a board, no, it.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
If they make a motion, private cemetery.
That we approve as presented.
And we have a motion that this be approved as presented. Now, when you say that, is it other suggestions?
In its entirety.
I have a motion on the floor that this be approved in its entirety. Do I get a second? Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Yandy? Have a motion on the floor to approve this, cemetery document as presented. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any further discussion? If not, we will vote. Starting,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
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 There is 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2 to approve. All right. On the other three that, voting ordinances that will be voted on our business meeting night, on July the 5th. Christopher, you gonna present these?
That's all right. I'm sorry.
I think so.
It's about taking the
Proposed
private.
items to be voted on, pole barn.
No.
This
Not
is
voting.
item three, taking the
The,
private cemetery.
Section 7.2, A2 agricultural district,
Okay, yeah.
recreational vehicles, and preparation of preliminary plats.
I don't have that one.
Discussion point, thank you.
Uh-huh.
private cemetery, this would be out, this is discussion to just take out, the word private cemetery from section 7211. This would be the first edit following up, and the cemetery, the private cemetery being approved or not. So if we move forward with this, this is the first out. This is simply removing that verbiage from it, and that's really all it is.
Yeah, it was the only section, out of all of those zones that actually had a use, or a permitted, item, so.
In the text, but not on the chart.
Correct,
This is
correct.
gonna clean up the text.
Right, putting it all and having to amend all those sections.
All right.
The next one, this was a request that came down to us, request for the BOC had to take up a variance, for a lady who had a non-conforming lot and could not put a camper in time of her house burned down. Insurance money ran out from being able to stay in a hotel. We couldn't allow her to have temporary housing on her own property, because of the way it was written. So what figured out in here is it all had to do with the acreage. This stems from hardship comes to us, or how much property or how big your house is or anything. So what we'd like to strike is having that minimum acreage that you're temporary dwelling on there. So if you had an A1 or A2, for example, I'm sorry, I think that's what it is. A1, a minimum of 10 acres. To even be able to have a hardship. That kind of hurt this being able to, and then RR, it took 4 acres to have a hardship, and we allow you to go all the way down to 2. Right now in R1, you had to have that 1.5 acres minimum, and there's a lot of non-R1s in our county, just to be able to pull that in because your house burned down or a tornado. I'm harping on house burning because it just happened. So by taking out that minimum lot size and saying if you have a hardship, we're looking at you and your situation. And so I'd just like to move to strike minimum property owned to have a hardship. And then adjust that same set to where the days match section 6.6, I'm just going to say section 6 now, where the dwelling of an RV, 15 consecutive days in a 60-day period, let that match the same, and it just simplifies the whole thing. Think about, well, is it temporary, is it a hardship, or is it dwelling days we get to go in and ask if they haven't come to us already. And so that's the only other thing. That's where that hardship comes from. So I really, that lady, she's a real nice lady, and I'm sorry her house burned. Then item agenda 5 with the subdivision regs. This goes into our copies. We were talking about digital copies coming in. This section here in 8.4 in the subdivision regs is cutting down the paper copies, the digital setup process. We don't need 15 copies, hard copies. Now we've got them digitally, but we still have to record some hard copies and have them present them. Section 8.4 number 3 is taking 15 copies. 15. We killed force copies. And that provides one for each board, one for the county clerk, and one for the P&D staff. Number 4 came for. Then we get into number 3B, the next one, the 7 copies of a preliminary plat. We only need one master digital submitted to y'all, or in case you don't have a tablet, Will's is there in those. And then, 4.3, again, taking that plat number from 6 to 1 again. Because we just don't flat out, and they're costing people money, and it's things we're actually paying to get rid of.
I want to back up just a moment, if you could, please.
Sir, yes.
6.6.2.7.
Yes, sir.
Tell me again why we're changing that from 30 and 12 months and 60 days.
664.
69. I got it.
You got it, okay.
I got 60. See, people claim hardships, and if they claim them in the field, or field staff finds them, the timeline of finding out, finding the process, whether or not it's in our board, BOC, hung up at Ms. Patrick's desk, hung up at my desk, truth be known, right? 30 days gives them a lot of leeway, and that's the reason why we also changed from 664 to the 15 days instead of 30.
664 is individual RVs occupied temporarily by guests of the owner or tenant. Which the RV is located shall be allowed not to exceed 15 consecutive calendar days in any 60-day period, and that was based on August 2nd of last year. So that's have the same 15-day requirement when someone's hardship.
So it's just making everything uniform.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And part of that has to do with those loopholes. That's where people are saying they're living in a storage building or a camper due to all the hardship, or do we have to wait the additional month before we can delve into it? And in some cases, this also helps us speed up in our ability to assist with the insurance claims.
Okay. Any from those? They will come before the public hearing on July 5th. And be prepared to vote on those changes.
Because currently, with reasons it's coming before, one was just the cleanup that we threw in, but with the outstanding hardship right now, limbo states the best way to say it. She's outside of policy. Change it and assist her in her insurance, which also betters the community as a whole. So it was a pressing need by the community members.
They had a question for you.
You have a question? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask her, but,
Come on up.
in regards to the lady that came up and I guess wasn't in favor of the vote or whatever, I know she's right next to us.
Yes.
I have had problems with her, but I mean, I've never reported it. In regards to, she has dogs as well, but they're loose. Some of them come in my yard. Almost bit one of my daughters, but we never.
We always like keep to ourselves. We got a big family. We get together. We like enjoying ourselves. Play a little bit of music, not too loud. But these people over here, they don't celebrate. I mean, that's their business. I mean, we all, you know.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this way. We have nothing to do with other than for your dog kennel.
Mm-hmm.
We have done that.
Right.
We have rezoned that.
Well,
recommended.
Right.
We have recommended that
Yeah,
to
that's what
the Board of Commissioners. So therefore, we don't have anything else to do with that.
Okay.
That's a neighborhood problem. That you guys solve.
So the only thing is the petition is, would that hurt the,
Well, the petition will be presented to the board just like it was presented to us.
okay,
And they will make their decision just like.
right, okay.
So she has the right, as a citizen or as a neighbor, to bring that petition and present it to that board just like she presented. Other than that, that board will make that decision.
Okay.
And you have the right to come
So can I also bring, I guess, a list also
If
of the
you want
people
to,
that
that's up to
agree
you.
to it?
That is up to you.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, that's what I wanted.
You'll also be given, you'll speak first, just like here tonight, you'll speak first, anybody that's opposed to speak, and you'll have an opportunity to speak again after them, and hear anything you want to tell the board of commissioners.
But do be advised, the state of Georgia is, allow music or excessive, disturbing of your neighbors after 10 p.m.
Right, and it happened before
Yeah, no,
that.
I just letting y'all know.
Yeah.
And then, of course, y'all can always call animal control, or the non-emergency number for Yeah. No, I just wanted to inform y'all.
Okay, all right, that's it. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
All right, thanks.
All right, is there anything else that needs to come before this board tonight? Not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second that
I
we
was looking
adjourn.
at you, I thought you were ready to go.
All in favor?
I ain't ready tonight.
We adjourn.
I don't have to pick up supper tonight.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, wow.
Okay. You told me.
Christopher, I hadn't had a chance to talk to Mr. Will today, I mean,
Not more before.
You okay?
I'm sorry.
Will, come walk right in front of me.
I'm sorry,
Must be out of the
Steve,
loop.
I hadn't had a chance to talk to him.
That's a little inside
But I
joke.
can,
Duly noted.
yes, ma'am.
All that stuff that you talk about is
How are you, sir?
Uh-huh.
How you doing, sir?
Okay.
Good.
The first time I sent it, it was just the agenda, and then I sent a second one with the supporting documents, like all the agenda, so that's what I have.
Yeah, but it was in the last meeting.
You stop playing, you don't have to.
Well,
Oh, you did? Okay, all right, I apologize.
look at it.
Okay.
You have your own plate? Will.
You guys, tomorrow,
Tomorrow or Thursday.
Yeah.
I was looking at checking my social, she's been working a poll today, so I don't know what kind of fun I've got on.
No, I tried to share,
Yeah.
put together everything.
Oh, okay.
Be factored into the board.
Okay.
In the meantime, I'm learning how this whole process works. That's why I'm just.
Okay.
It's not it.
No.
You are just so helpful.
Well, you're the one who shows up with everything. We just sit here and try to look pretty.
Aw.
Easier for some than others.
I'm learning.
Okay, we got it going on here. Yes, sir.
commissioners meeting, and before you know it, they have this, so, because
It's, good thing.
Yes, no, it's a good thing. It makes us appreciate what great people work on the county. Sometimes it's hard when you get that, like myself, and I'll just slip out, and I'll say it's me, I get that assessment notice, and sometimes it's easy to sit there and point, and now I'm actively involved in this, that are not compensated for the number of hours that they put in, i.e. this young lady right here. It makes me appreciate, I don't always have to look that over, but I have an appreciation that I did not have before. The amount of knowledge that man can tell from a federal and a state down to a local level, it's worth it, yes, to answer your question. So, thank you for
to figure out those inner workings of our government works, it's kind of like,
Helped me get to the rest of the, comprehensive plan. I was out of state last Tuesday, I couldn't make it.
and when you come to the commissioners meeting, what I like about those is you learn, now, this could change with the next group of commissioners. You get a feel of where they want the county, their discussion, their, things, you really
Yeah.
get a feel.
And the fact that.
What's important to them and what's not.
let's
Georgia.
you could, come in and we will fill out the
Men
application,
did that.
and then we will submit it. And I won't take money from you or anything, because we've got to figure out if it's gonna be, because it has to be a conditional use, number one. And then we might have a
I
variance,
did a lot of,
as well,
rough
because
running
you're
around
not meeting
UGA.
setbacks.
The only guy
But
that ran
give me a
was
call,
back.
and we can set up a
all
little
the time,
time for you to come
and,
in, and
came out.
I'll do that application with you. If you want, usually mornings are kind of crazy, but maybe any time after lunch, maybe, and we could try to get all that.
I will do that.
Okay. All right, you're welcome. You're very welcome.
Good to see.
You ready to go home?
No, I still have a high regard for
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Why?
Cause the bridge shut down for a year.
Oh,
I don't know,
did I
they-
want? Oh,
Inspires
my word.
fear and patriotism in the same.
Oh.
He liked me.
Yeah.
Conversations, 'cause one time he came